YouTube, Rumble, Twitter. Before I start this video, I do have to ask you guys, if you do end up liking the video, please hit the like button. If you end up disliking the video, that button's right there too. I would really appreciate it either way, you guys. It was just a matter of time before we started talking about Anheuser Busch In-Bev Bud Light again, and that whole thing that's been going on for the past couple months. And we finally have an executive at Anheuser Busch who's speaking a little bit of truth. Now, granted, there needs to be a lot more said, but the story we're going to talk about today is ran by the Huffington Post, so it's going to be very left-leaning. So grab something nearby, hold on to it, and squeeze it as hard as you can as I go through this article with you guys. And of course, I'm going to sprinkle my opinions here and there on it. So let's get started. Anheuser-Busch executive says Bud Light controversy was an important wake-up call. Bud Light sales were down 24% from a year ago, driven by conservative outrage over a marketing partnership with transgender influencer who shall not be named. Listen, guys, it is no surprise that my videos get nerfed because of who I talk about or what I talk about. If you go through my catalog, my views are all over the place. And to test this theory a little bit, I did make a separate account just to test to see if notifications would be pushed to it, or if I went into the application, if the video would even pop up into the feed. And I will say there are a few videos that don't do either. And that is with notifications turned on. You know, I see a lot of YouTubers talk about it all the time, and I just wanted to be sure. And sure enough, it definitely gets suppressed. I guarantee you there's probably a handful of videos in there you just didn't get to see because they just didn't want to show it to you. An executive at Anheuser Busch In-Bev, the international beer company that oversees Anheuser-Busch, said the controversy that followed a Bud Light partnership with transgender TikTok influencer, who shall not be named, was an important wake-up call. In times like this, when things get divisive and controversial so easily, I think it's an important wake-up call to all of us marketers for us to be very humble. Marcel Marcondes, Anheuser Busch InBev Global Chief Marketing Officer, said on Monday. Now, that little jab they took at conservatives, don't worry, I will get to that. You gotta remember, this is the Huffington Post. They are not exactly right-leaning in any way, shape, or form. Now, as little as any of these words mean, it is nice to see some acknowledgement about their missteps. It would have been nicer to see an apology saying that we obviously stepped on a bunch of people's values that we shouldn't have, particularly when your drinkers of Bud Light are generally in that direction. Now, I have stated it multiple times before. My issue is not the transgender portion. My issue is that he shall not be named, the TikTok influencer whose main viewership was 13 to 17 years old, and you know for sure there are people under that age, but you have to be 13 to sign up, but how hard is it to get around that, was essentially marketing beer to children. Now, yes, I do have an issue with this person wearing woman face and basically being a complete mockery of any kind of movement they have. The over-exaggerated caricature that this person does is kind of gross. I would assume that most women would find what this person is doing to be pretty insulting. All right, so let's continue on. Bud Light had the best-selling U.S. beer for more than 2 decades until April, when right-wingers worked themselves into a transphobic rage over the company's marketing partnership with blank. Musicians Kid Rock, Travis Tritt, and John Rich joined politicians like Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene in a frothy boycott. Anheuser-Busch said nothing in support of blank. The Human Rights Campaign suspended the company's equality and inclusion rating, and Bud Light sales plunged. The brand lost its U.S. bestseller crown to Modelo Especial in June, when Bud Light sales dropped 24% from a year earlier. It is tough to see all the controversial and divisive debates happening in the U.S. the last couple of weeks involving lots of brands and companies, including especially Bud Light, Marcondes said. Now, the one thing that's dumb that came out of this part is Huffington Post's claim that these were basically all conservatives that were boycotting. And that is absolutely absurd. Minus the fact they kind of pushed away from this person, it pissed off a bunch of people in that community, which then started boycotting them as well, which I did make a video about. A lot of these gay bars, they actually started boycotting this company as well. And not just Bud Light, basically everything they make. But notice they have not mentioned that here at all. Now, the initial boycott might have been mostly conservatives. I would agree with that. But to say all conservatives, there's no way. There are plenty of left-wing people who do not want their kids to be influenced by a transgender. And plus, many of them were probably like me and didn't want someone advertising alcohol to children. But I digress, so let's wrap this thing up. Other companies have also faced right-wing backlash for inclusive marketing and employment pitches, including Target and Cracker Barrel. Anheuser-Busch, in a statement last week, acknowledged that the discussion around Bud Light had moved away from beer. We are a beer company, and beer is for everyone, the company said. The company added that its summer advertising will showcase Bud Light as reinforcing what you've always loved about our brand, that it's easy to drink and easy to enjoy. Again, another jab at conservatives. Now, I didn't cover the Cracker Barrel thing, so I'm going to leave that one off the table. We'll just jump to Target really fast. And I'm not going to go deep in this because I do have a couple videos on this particular one. Target hired a trans activist artist who is known for having satanic imagery in much of their products. But also, if you ignore the bathing suit issue that was happening with the whole tuck thing, and many people saying there was kids versions of it, but then Target saying no, these were marketed for adults. But if you do look at the sizes, a lot of them are actually definitely for kids. There's no question about it. Unless we're talking about a 4'5" grown human person, the likelihood of them mass manufacturing for such a small demographic is very unlikely. But if you haven't noticed the theme, this all boils back down to kids. Like the books I've talked about in previous videos, like Genderqueer, from trans TikTokers marketing alcohol to kids, and then a massive company trying to sell specific types of clothes for kids. I don't know about you guys, but it's not that hard to connect these dots. Now, as far as Bud Light's response here, I'm glad they said something, but I'm gonna be real with you guys. It wasn't enough. It just simply wasn't enough. I've said this in multiple videos. Without them giving an actual apology, specifically stating that this person that they chose was a huge mistake and it clearly goes against the values of their consumers. But at this point, you guys, I think it's too late. I think the brand Bud Light is completely shot. I think their other products getting hit outside of Bud Light is a clear indication that there really is no return for this brand. Now, I know Anheuser Busch and In-Bev are not going to go out of business anytime soon, but the people who've moved away from Bud Light and found something else, like Coors, like Miller, or maybe some microbrew, they're not coming back. They're just simply not coming back. They've already made the shift, and until one of these companies makes a huge blunder like Bud Light has, I don't expect these people to change. And if they do change, they're not going to go back to Bud Light. Now, the way I see it, Bud Light as a brand is basically dead. The only hope they have is to captivate new drinkers. And every day there's a new batch of 21-year-olds. Of course, when I theorized that they were using the TikToker Mulvaney, they were trying to market to future consumers. Not today's drinkers, but tomorrow's drinkers. And that to me is probably the most disgusting part of it. Yes, there's a discussion to be had on the other side, and I've made those arguments as well. But you guys, that is the end of the video. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments down below. And if you haven't already, please hit that like or that dislike button. Hit the subscribe button and click that notification bell so you'll get notified, hopefully, when I post a new video. And as always, guys, I really appreciate your time, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.